What if I told you that one of the most mysterious objects in the Bible was not a weapon, a treasure chest, or a symbol created by humans? It was the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred chest connected with the very presence of God. But here's the question: what was actually inside the Ark? The Bible gives us some fascinating answers. And one of the objects inside it was directly connected to one of the greatest miracles God ever performed for Israel. So let's uncover what Scripture tells us about the contents of the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant was built according to God's instructions given to Moses on Mount Sinai. It was made from acacia wood and covered with pure gold. On top was a golden cover called the mercy seat, with two cherubim facing each other. The Ark was not simply a religious decoration. It represented God's covenant with Israel and was associated with His presence among His people. But what was kept inside this sacred chest? According to the Bible, there were three important items associated with the Arkansas. The first and most important contents were the stone tablets containing the 10 Commandments. God gave Moses the commandments on Mount Sinai. These commandments represented God's covenant with the people of Israel. Exodus 25 verse 16 says, "And you shall put into the ark the testimony that I shall give you." The testimony refers to the covenant testimony, the commandments God gave His people. Later, Moses placed the tablets inside the Arkansas. These weren't ordinary stones. They represented God's law and His covenant. Every time the Israelites looked toward the ark, they were reminded that they were living under a covenant with their Creator. But the ark had more than the tablets. The second object was a golden jar containing manna. But what exactly was manna? When the Israelites were traveling through the wilderness after leaving Egypt, they had no normal supply of food. So God provided food from heaven. Every morning, the Israelites found a substance on the ground. They called it manna. It became their food throughout their wilderness journey. Hebrews 9 verse 4 specifically mentions the golden urn holding the manna. Why preserve manna? Because it was a reminder of God's provision. The Israelites could look at that jar and remember, God fed us when we had nothing. God provided when there seemed to be no way forward. The manna represented God's faithfulness. But there was still one more remarkable object. And this one was connected to a miracle involving Aaron. The third object was Aaron's staff that had miraculously budded. Aaron was Moses' brother and Israel's first high priest. There was a dispute among the Israelites about who had been chosen by God for priestly leadership. God commanded that the leaders of the tribes bring staffs before him. Aaron's staff was placed before the Lord. And something impossible happened. The next day, Aaron's staff had budded, blossomed, and produced almonds. Think about that. A dead wooden staff had produced flowers and fruit. It was a miraculous sign showing God's chosen authority. Numbers 17:10 says that the staff was to be kept before the testimony as a sign for the rebellious people. So now we have three extraordinary reminders. The tablets represented God's law. The manna represented God's provision. Aaron's staff represented God's chosen authority and miraculous power. But there's something very interesting we need to understand. The Bible's descriptions are not identical in every passage. In 1 Kings 8 verse 9, when Solomon's temple was dedicated, Scripture says that there was nothing in the ark except the 2 stone tablets. So how do we understand this? The safest conclusion is that the stone tablets were definitely kept inside the ark, while the manna and Aaron's staff were sacred objects associated with the ark and the covenant testimony. Hebrews 9 verse 4 groups all three together when describing the holy furnishings. So we should avoid claiming more certainty than Scripture gives us. But there is another question that is even more mysterious. What made the ark truly special? It wasn't the gold. It wasn't the wood. It wasn't even the objects kept with it. The ark was significant because it represented God's covenant and His presence among His people. Above the ark was the mercy seat. The high priest would enter the most holy place once a year on the Day of Atonement and make atonement for the sins of the people. The ark pointed towards something much greater, the relationship between a holy God and sinful humanity, and Christians believe that this points forward to Jesus Christ. The Old Covenant had the ark, the priesthood, sacrifices, and the mercy seat. But Jesus came as the fulfillment of God's plan of redemption. Through Christ, God's presence is no longer associated with one golden chest in one earthly location. So what was inside the ark? The Bible clearly identifies the stone tablets of the covenant. And Scripture also associates the ark with the golden jar of manna and Aaron's staff that budded. Three powerful reminders: God's law, God's provision, God's authority. But the greatest lesson isn't about the objects. It's about the God who gave them. The God who gives His law. The God who provides. And the God who brings life from what appears to be dead. And that's why the Ark of the Covenant remains one of the most fascinating mysteries in the Bible. If you found this story interesting, subscribe for more biblical mysteries and stories.